Hey guys, we're going to do some of the color rendering stuff. So this is some of the things that you're going to need. You need a set of markers. They can be expensive markers, really expensive markers, or whatever markers you happen to have lying around at the house, or a set of colored pencils. And they could be kind of medium expensive colored pencils, very expensive colored pencils, not expensive colored pencils at all. It doesn't matter. You're going to find one that you like using. Also, some tape to tape it down, circle template, square, or scale. And I don't care which scale you use. Some paper. This little thing right here inside my tape is called a tortillon, and it's used for shading. It is not necessary, but you might find picking one up to be helpful as far as your shading is concerned. Okay, so that's some of the equipment that you're going to need. Okay guys, what I've done here is a technique called washing. You can see the color relatively even. It's okay if you go outside the line a little bit or you don't come into the line a little bit, because we can fix that. You're going to try to avoid what I did here, and that is start off a little hard so that you have kind of a line in the middle. We can fix that later on, but it is something that we're going to try to avoid. So I'm going to turn the camera here, and I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to use a hard pencil, a soft pencil, and a medium pencil. And that kind of just has to do with the cheapness of the pencil. So here is a fairly inexpensive, just El Cheapy pencil that you can get in a kit at Walmart. And you'll see when I come to washing, I'm holding the pencil on its side. And I'm trying just to go back and forth, keeping the lines all going in about the same direction. Just going back and forth, trying to keep roughly the same thickness. All right, now I'm going to use the Crayola. All right, so this is a little bit more expensive pencil. It's still not horrendously expensive. They're usually, $5 or $7 for a set, depending upon how many you want. Do the same thing. Hold it on your side. And simply go back and forth using the flat edge of the pencil, trying to keep your lines going all in the same direction and your thickness all about the same, so that your wash ends up about the same. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the really expensive pencil. And there's the set of pencils here. I'm not expecting you to buy a set of pencils like this. This particular set costs quite a bit of money. But you get the same thing. This one happens to be a very soft pencil, so you don't have to push very hard at all. It's very easy to get those really strange lines where you come in and you're pushing too hard. And you're trying to keep things about the same. Now, the nice thing about pencil is I can go in and do it again, even with the same, pushing about the same, and I can make it a little bit darker. I can push a little bit harder. And make it even darker. And so this is one of the things that I'm going to want you guys to do, is just to get a random piece of paper, use your circle template, and practice some washing. Do somewhere between 6 or 8 little circles. I don't care what size they are. This is just mostly for your own practice. And then we're going to do some more practice making some shading on those. But start by a basic wash. Okay, now that you have your basic wash done, we're going to show some shading. Learn to talk. I'm going to continue at this point using the Crayola type pencils. This is kind of the medium, what I call the medium expensive pencil. You can use whatever pencil you're most comfortable with. That's entirely up to you. And again, it's just on a plain piece of paper. Go ahead and use the washes that you've done already. And now what we're going to do is we're going to try to get some darkening around the edge. You still want the pencil going in about the same direction. Notice I'm still holding the pencil on its side. Might be pushing a little bit harder. And that's a simple shading. You can go even harder. Now you can hold the pencil more like a regular pencil and put an even darker line. Notice I'm not going all the way around the entire circle. I happen not to like that as much because I don't find it blends as well. So I personally will try to blend that a bit more, but that's personal preference. If you happen to like that dark line, go ahead and use that. Some people like shading even more in the center. What you don't want, let me go back over here to the cheapy one. So I'm going to go over here. Actually, I think the cheap one was this one. I'm going to try this first one. What you don't want and what you're trying to avoid is simply shading half. Notice there's no difference here. We're shading half the circle, and that doesn't look as natural. So what we're trying to do when it comes to our shading is make it look a little bit more natural. And again, if you like that darkened line, that's fine, that's up to you. We're trying to avoid simply doing a line. So kind of go around, pretend like it's a circle, it is a circle. Pretend more like it's a cylinder, and simply go around and around. And you can go darker and darker as you get toward the edge. You can do several different shades if you want to, but really only one additional shade is necessary because that will help with the speed. I'll go ahead and show you how you could fix that last one where it's kind of outside the lines, and this is where shading can really help. You simply start shading in between. Notice again how I'm trying to keep simply going around, roughly keeping that pencil going in about the same direction. And again, filling in around there. When you have multiple plants together, that works. Again, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. You're not going for, you know, kindergarten grading sort of thing. But we are trying to avoid this, keeping our lines more natural and not the hard line like you see here in the middle. So practice another 3 or 4 circles with your shading of different areas. Then take a few actual symbols and do a wash and a shade on those. And I'll do another video on those in just a second. Okay, here you can see I've drawn several of the world's crappiest symbols, and I'm not going to color them all because the video would get ridiculously long, but I will give you an idea, particularly for the water and for the hardscape, how to do some of those things. So let me set this down. Let's do the water a little bit. Again, it doesn't really matter what pencil you use. You're just going to want to go ahead and do a wash all the way around. And this is where, if you start out really, really light, you can darken things and you can leave the center light, which would kind of indicate reflection. The other thing that you could do is darken even more underneath where the rocks are. And that kind of indicates a bit of a shadow. I see I have something on my table, which is giving me this little bump right here. And I'll just go around, just kind of like I did with the circles before. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be exact. Leave the center a little bit lighter. Maybe I'll darken this a bit more. A little bit more down in here. And maybe we'll pull a different color for those stones. Let's see what I have over here. Okay, again, start out fairly light. This is a very soft pencil, so getting light is difficult. Again, you can just go around the base and kind of highlight, make it a little bit darker, and maybe we can make it even darker. And there you have a water garden. So you can do something very similar with the hardscapes. So there's a couple of hardscape things. Again, they don't necessarily have to replicate the exact colors, but if you do a very, very light wash all the way around, what we often do is a wash all the way around, and then we darken the outer portion. And this doesn't have to be in a circle. It obviously could be kind of in a pattern for you. What you want to do is, if you're working with a lot of different elements in your design, which you probably will be, make sure your shadowing is always in the same direction. And often we do the bottom right-hand corner. That just seems to be the most natural for a lot of people. Notice how I'm darkening around the edges, and I'm leaving the center portion alone. And if you feel that you've gotten too much of a line, you can just kind of go back in and darken a little bit. And then the nice thing that you can do with hardscaping is you can go in and add a few individual lines. Kind of takes that pencil look away from it. If you want to do them all, you can. The other thing you can do is you can even go in and darken one or two. If you happen to have a lot of time on your hands, then you can go in even with a different color or a different pencil. You can see this different pencil showing up a little bit more orange, and that gives you a nice touch as well. Now, for the lumber deck, basically, you're going to end up doing the same thing. Hold your pencil on its side. Very, very light wash. And then you can go back in and add individual details, not all the way around, but to a few boards here and there. Kind of the boards shade each other a little bit. And then if you are really inclined, go back and grab a darker one. It can be any basic color. Again, bring out some of those details so they're noticed. You'll notice here I used a completely different color, in this case purple, but it really adds a nice touch. You can do the same thing with your symbols. I'll leave that part to you guys so these videos don't get even longer than they already are.